Yeah, Baba's, of course, you're acquainted with what Don Stevens reports of a meeting with Baba, where, well, Baba did say, he did affirm a basic insight of Hinduism, actually. It's there in the other religions also, but it's most explicit in Hinduism, that there are fundamentally three paths. The path of knowledge, path of action, and the path of devotion or love in its higher aspect. And in fact, Baba gave the metaphysical foundation for that, which is the first time that's ever been done. But the Bhagavad Gita is all about this.
Knowledge, devotion, and what?
Knowledge, action, and devotion, or love in its higher aspect. And karma. So the terms for this in Hinduism would be Gyan Yoga, with the Gyan Marg. Gyan means knowledge. Karma Yoga, or Karma Marg, the action path. And Bhakti Yoga. And Bhakti Yoga, in its sort of ordinary aspect, is the world of religious ritualism, worship. But in its higher aspect, or Hara Bhakti is the term Baba uses in the Discourses, it becomes real love. It graduates into higher love. And these three paths are based, and this is new from Baba. I haven't been able to find this. Sometimes people will tell me that it's here or it's there, but I haven't found it anywhere. The triune nature of God is now knowledge, power, and bliss. That's the first time this has really been revealed. This is right in God Speaks. In fact, in the 1920s to the 60s, Baba continued to affirm this is the triune nature of God. And the triune nature of God, knowledge, power, and bliss, is the basis for the mental, subtle, and gross spheres. And it's also the basis for the three yogas. The yoga of knowledge is based on God's nature as knowledge. The yoga of action is based on God's nature as power, right? Mm-hmm. Action is the implementation of power, right? And the path of bhakti, or devotion, or love, is based on God's nature as bliss. Because love is very blissful. Or, when you get into the dualistic sphere, it's agony and ecstasy. It's bliss and agony, right? That's the characteristic of love. So, Baba's lovers are of various types. You know, you'll see some who are just pure devotion, love, bhakti. And that is the one that Baba did prioritize most when it comes down to it, the path of love and the path of simple devotion. But that's not all. Baba actually, I have often said, I said to Gary Kleiner one time, we would talk about this, these three paths. I said, I think Baba gave, sort of like in, you go to Pune, some people will get the Jeswala blend of tea, the proper mix of tea. Well, the Baba blend of the three yogas I'm talking about. And of course, there's a lot of individual variation, but there is a kind of a general overall blend, it seems to me. And I would rate it at about maybe 40% bhakti, maybe 30-35% karma, and say 25% knowledge or gyan. That's what I said to Gary, and Gary said, no. It's 80% bhakti and 5% gyan. And here's what I would say to that. On the prestige scale, that's true. But actually, we as Baba lovers don't do the things that bhakti groups do. Like, Hare Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna. Do we chant?
No.
We don't. A lot of the standard bhakti practices are not general among Baba lovers at all. Now, the devotional love, I think love actually encompasses all of these, to tell the truth. I think it's greater than just this one path. But that path, that approach, is strongly emphasized in much of what Baba gave us. But here's the other thing. The other paths, actually, Baba reinforced too. How can you hold a job and not practice karma? Tell me how to do it. You just go around, oh, Meher Baba. Don't bother me, boss. I'm remembering Baba. Well, you won't keep your job for very long.
Yeah.
And let's suppose you have to do some routine function. You're a salesman, or you're, a secretary, or whatever it may be. You can't spend all your time just with devotional remembrance of Meher Baba, now can you? It's not possible. What you have to do, if you're really going to, it seems to me, if you're really going to try to do this as a spiritual aspirant, is practice karma yoga. That is, you do your duty and do it for God's sake and renounce the fruit of action, right?
Right.
What other way is there in that circumstance? You have to be sometimes mentally absorbed in what you're doing. Let's suppose you're a therapist, and let's suppose the person you're dealing with is a mess of lust, greed, and anger. So you practice Gyan yoga and dissociate yourself? No, you can't do that. You have to actually deal with the person, right? So, but you have to deal with the person with detachment. So it seems to me anyone who lives a life in the world in a serious way has got to do karma yoga. And a lot of what Baba has to say in the Discourses is precisely karma yoga, like building the provisional ego, for example.
Right.
That's a karma yoga technique.
Right.
And so far as knowledge or Gyan yoga, actually, Baba's lovers know a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
We have really got a really good education in a lot of things. We know that the goal of life is the realization of God. We know the difference between an avatar and a sadguru. How many people in the world could explain that? We know about the law of karma. We know evolution, reincarnation, involution. There's actually a lot of education we've had, and it's of practical relevance. Like if I'm feeling really, really pissed at someone, I would like to just punch them in the face. My education might be one thing that says, this will karmically bind you. Baba said this and Baba said that. And my understanding could be helpful in guiding my action. Isn't that true of all of us?
Right.
Now, we may not always succeed in that respect. So I actually think Baba has given us a blend of all three of these. It's really a part of the Baba culture we have. Now, you'll get some people who are much more one way than another. That's true. But I think he's given a wonderful integrated blend of the different paths that is admirably suited to the age we live in.
Did he say anything about spiritual growth is possible only through incarnating into a body?
Well, you have to be in a body to spend your sanskaras over your karma.
Right. Life is not a waste, so to speak. It's a purposeful vehicle for...
Without a doubt, yeah.
Right.
You have to. You can't progress anywhere without incarnating. Well, I think where the problem of words arises is when they get dissociated from action. And when they're not lived.
Right.
Baba talked about a huge problem, and actually Dr. Deshmukh's book, Sparks of the Truth, is a wonderful discourse on this, where he's basing what he says directly on Baba's own teachings. The chasm between theory and practice is one of the tragedies of the modern age. And words become vacuous when they are separated from action.
Called talk your walk.
Yeah.
Talk your walk, not walk your talk.
Yeah, but now when words are actually the living expression of the truth, and when they are taken to heart and put into one's life, then they become potent vehicles of the truth. Now, Baba's own words, as he's referring to...
As an atom bomb.
As an atom bomb, yeah. Baba, Don Stevens had mentioned how Baba had said there are atom bombs in his words. And, I take that as a tremendous spiritual charge, a tremendous force of light and knowledge and power, all of which is directly related to experience, too. When Baba's words are read properly, in my opinion, they are directly connected with our experience. I don't think they're dissociated at all. But if they're read superficially in just a mental way, then this problem arises. They become sterile and vacuous and of little worth. But that's actually not the fault of Baba's words, it's the fault of the approach to them. But this is a path, this is central to my own work. I work with words all the time. I'm a words guy. I write and editing, songs and poetry. Words are very central to that. But the key to that is how to make them alive, not something sterile and dead and merely mental. And keeping the vital connection with the living truth is the key to it. And I do think that Baba's words can be studied in a way that helps with this. This is my own particular line. I was a professor, I can't help it, it's just, my line. But I do really believe from my own experience that if you really study Baba's words with an open mind and an open heart, all sorts of doors will open. And my experience, once again, is that to read Baba's words in any way is a good thing, actually. If you feel drawn to it, okay, this world is full of all these maps, and they're marked treasure here, treasure there. And you go to the world's maps and you dig and you find it's a dirty, stinky bone and some dog buried. The world's treasures stink. They're worthless. Baba's maps mark real treasures. And if you go to Baba's words that way, you will find treasures if you persist. Anyone will. Anyone will. But I also think that there is a value to really studying Baba's words in a disciplined way. It's just what I do, so I see the value of my own line of activity, as we all do. We all become aware of what can be gained to whatever path you're on. But so I'm aware of this too. If you really, really are focused and disciplined, and here's one of the things I've learned about studying Baba's words, where often I'll see sometimes people miss the mark here, in my opinion. To really be attentive to what Baba wants to talk about, rather than what I'm interested in. If Baba keeps bringing some subject up, this is one of the real keys for me. I will say, why is Baba interested in this? And asking that question will lead to really good results. So, this may not be the best example, but I noticed this a bunch of years ago. I really don't mean to be criticizing anybody in this, but my point is, there's a value to putting aside your own preconceptions and really trying to observe what Baba is saying, not my own agendas. Well, I was at a meeting a couple of years ago where we were reading Baba's Discourse on the Occult. There are 3 discourses on the occult. They're wonderful. And after reading one of the discourses in a group, there was a discussion about it. And what everybody was saying was, I've never had any interest in the occult, and Baba really discouraged the occult. That kind of comment. And what struck me was, yes, it is true, the Mandali have told us that. Yes, it is true in his communications, that was Baba's emphasis. I agree with that. But that actually isn't what the discourse said. The discourse was actually talking, there are dangers in the occult, but there are things you can gain from it, like that. And I'm not pitching that either one of those lines, but what I am saying is, when we're reading Baba's discourse on the occult, let's actually pause to take note of what Baba is saying about it, and not just replay what we've been told by the Mandali. I'm not criticizing the Mandali. Don't get me wrong in that. I'm really not. And one of the insights this would lead me to remark on is that Baba's communication to his mandali and his close ones on the subject of the occult was rather different from what he gave out to the world. Now, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And if you never notice what Baba said in the discourse in the first place, you're never going to see this. And so I would ask myself, well, why is this? Because these discourses are going to be for all humanity for thousands of years. And you're going to have people coming to Baba as the avatar of the age who, for heaven's sakes, have had occult experiences. Let's suppose you get a Phyllis Frederick. What's she supposed to do about it? She sees all this stuff, And you come to Baba and you want to say, Baba, what is the occult about? And what you get is Baba saying, don't touch the occult. Don't involve yourself in the occult. Well, Baba was saying that to his close ones, people right around him, and he was steering, and his lovers, steering them away from that. But for humanity at large, he was giving a very universal treatment of the subject. And if you never take the time to actually notice what Baba is saying, what I've said will never occur to you. I don't know if this is clear what I'm saying. There are a lot of cases where I'll see people will read something and then they'll just replay their old agenda. So part of what I think of as a disciplined approach to Baba's words, the study of Baba's words, is it can often happen in groups. To actually have the discipline to put aside projections and put aside preconceptions, whatever they are. Like in this case, the agenda about what the Mandali had said about the occult, that's an extremely good agenda. That's part of the real teaching we got. I'm not knocking that at all. But whatever the agenda is, good or bad, take the moment to put it aside and say, what is Baba saying? What is Baba actually saying? And I do think that if one approaches Baba's words in that way, all sorts of things open up to you that will never open up to you otherwise.